The next night, you're back in Toronto for a live SmackDown. The music plays during the main event of Austin versus Rob Van Dam. Of course, you get a gigantic pop. RVD takes advantage of Austin being distracted. He's schoolboy Stone Cold, and he gets the win. And I think some people, if you're trying to poke holes in the booking, would say, well, it hurts Austin to lose here. But to me, it shows that no, he's really more worried about you than he is Rob Van Dam. Do you think this distraction finish and the schoolboy is overused in wrestling at this point?
Oh, definitely. I think we got a little bit lazy. It's kind of acceptable with the wrestlers and with the fans. They see that, when they're wrestling and somebody comes out and music plays and someone gets a quick finish, that happens quite a bit. So I think the fans know when that occurs that it's going to happen. Sometimes guys do kick out of it, continue on, but for the most part, that's when the match is over.
Do you think it confused the audience? I mean, after you see Rob Van Dam pin the champ, do you think perhaps some people thought, well, wait a minute, this must mean they're building towards Rob Van Dam in Austin? Or did that not confuse the issue, at least to you?
It didn't to me, because it was a quick finish. He snuck it. It wasn't like he did it fairly. Austin got distracted. So that's one excuse that you can, that Austin can claim. But, for the most part, it was, it happens. So, but I'm okay with them pushing RVD at the same time. Why not push two wrestlers and not just one? And I think they were trying to push RVD at that particular time. I believe a couple months afterward, we had a triple threat match with Austin, myself, and RVD. So they were building RVD up at this particular moment.
Well, the next time you're in Raw, which is on the 10th, so the day before 9/11, you're going to be taking on Rob Van Dam. It's going to be a hardcore match, and it is pretty hardcore. I mean, they're doing all the crazy stuff, including coming off the ramp. But ultimately, you wind up getting stretchered out in a neck brace, and it's almost as if we're positioning like, hey, the pay-per-view main event could be in jeopardy. What do you remember about that night?
Yeah, I got thrown off the stage, and they wanted me to act like I hurt my neck and that I wasn't going to be able to wrestle to show that the pay-per-view was in jeopardy. It's one of those things that it could work and it couldn't work. I mean, it's a really tough, it's a tough storyline to portray. I mean, being injured and, the pay-per-view coming up, it's probably not the smartest move to do that, but I think that they wanted me to look like I was working from underneath.
Tell us about taking the big bump off of the ramp. We know later when you're in TNA, you're going to become a bit of a daredevil and you're just going to do it yourself. But here, when Austin is throwing you off the ramp, any concern or hesitation about how that's done? Do y'all do a walkthrough earlier in the day? I mean, I know there's a crash pad or something, but still it's something you've never done before. Do you do it for the first time in front of an audience?
You can. I mean, it's not that crazy of a bump. It's probably about 8 or 10 feet. And, you have a crash pad down there. You land on your feet and drop and roll. So it's not that bad. I mean, you could blow your knee out possibly, but for the most part, it's relatively safe.
I've always just been fascinated by pro wrestling because, in traditional, we'll call it Hollywood movies, man, they just do take after take after take. And here in pro wrestling, most of the time, hey, it's just what happens. And a lot of times performers are asked to do something that they've never done in quote unquote practice. They've never had a rehearsal, and we're just going to do the stunt and we'll film it and hopefully it turns out okay. And I'll be damned if most of the time it doesn't turn out just fine.
I know. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you play your cards and you get what you're dealt with.
So as a reminder, on this day, you win the hardcore title, but on this day, you immediately lose it because after that big bump off the ramp, RVD winds up with an arm draped over you and ta-da, he's got it back.